busted dams and mega tsunamis, the apocalyptic floods that will end the world. We know they're coming because they have been predicted by the greatest seer in history, Nostradamus. 500 years ago, Nostradamus scribed thousands of coded prophecies.
What he saw, no one could survive.
These visions of future catastrophes are as terrifying as they come.
Famine, plague, floods, volcanoes. From the droughts, there is fire, death of millions.
Many of his predictions have already come true.
Oh my God!
From the rise of Hitler to the assassination of JFK and the 9/11 terrorist attack. But the discovery of a lost book bearing his name suggests the worst is yet to come.
He was witnessing the end of the world.
Disasters so enormous that they would wipe out the whole human race.
How will it happen? When will it happen? For the first time, experts decode the warning signs and reveal, can the world be saved? The world is very close to witnessing one of Nostradamus's most horrific predictions. A flood event so devastating, it marks the beginning of the end for all mankind.
It's another beautiful sunny day in St. Louis.
Hey guys, for today's video, I'm going to be vlogging my day at the mall.
I'm just driving over the bridge. I've got a great day planned.
And I got those like little orange gel eye masks.
If the Fort Peck Dam on the Missouri River breaks, the water will break through the 5 successive dams downriver,
creating a tsunami of a flood going down the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, inundating cities all the way down to St. Louis.
Oh my God, oh my God!
it would be a flood of biblical proportions.
The entire planet will be submerged in a single week. Humanity as we know it will be destroyed. Rural France, the 16th century. Physician Michel de Nostradamus has terrifying premonitions of the horrors that humankind will ultimately endure. He channels these visions into coded predictions and writes them down for the world to see. Over 900 poetic quatrains published in his book, Les Prophéties.
Many of Nostradamus's prophecies predict floods. They sound like warnings you hear from climatologists.
Nostradamus tells us of a world that is submerged in floods, that it's not simply one flood. The disasters foretold in his quatrains are interconnected. When one comes to pass, another will come to pass.
How horrifying that must have been to have those images inside his head. It had to be unsettling, unnerving, and, quite honestly, devastating.
These visions, along with the methods he used to receive them, lead many in his day to believe he's possessed, or worse, the devil himself.
I can only imagine how Nostradamus may have felt when he got visions of huge, massive floods.
What did he see? Certainly rising waters, but more than that. A flood is not simply a churning of dark waters. It is the loss of life. It is houses, fields, cities being swept away. The water becomes a living thing. It is fast and vicious. It is murky and full of dangerous debris. He would witness all of that.
The danger his powers put him in would keep a lesser man quiet. But now, 500 years later, every one of Nostradamus' predictions are examined by experts around the world, especially his spectacular visions of apocalyptic floods.
Nostradamus has a great track record as a prophet. He's made so many predictions that have come true that the world is still enamored with what the man said.
One of his most famous prophecies concerns the death of President Kennedy.
The ancient work will be completed. From the roof, evil ruin on the Great One. The rooftop would suggest the presence of Lee Harvey Oswald in the Texas Book Depository. An innocent made dead will be accused. Oswald was not the real killer. He was framed, and he was shot very, very soon after his arrest. The culprit hidden, grove in the fog. This has been taken to allude to the conspiracy that really killed JFK in the eyes of many.
Nostradamus is a reliable prophet. The things that he saw in his visions have come to pass. Absolutely no one has a track record for making future predictions the way that Nostradamus did. No one.
While some of Nostradamus' predictions are difficult to interpret, there is no mistaking his words in Quatrain 162.
So in this quatrain, Nostradamus stated great floods by more ignorant rulers. So this isn't a small localized flood, this is something extreme.
By more ignorant rulers clearly points to man-made disasters, to dam breakages.
He's talking about floods that come because dams have failed and collapsed, because society can no longer maintain them. We are, in some respects, authors of our own destruction.
This has an unsettlingly accurate resonance today when we are seeing floods as a result of climate change produced by human activity. And we are doing this because our rulers are oblivious.
Floods going back throughout history, they've denoted the end of the world.
We learned about it back in biblical times, right? The massive floods. I mean, Noah had to build his ark to get out of there. But when we think about it in today's context, there's a lot more at stake here in our civilization. Flooding can happen from torrential rain, tropical storms or hurricanes, dam breaks, and floods are getting more severe with climate change.
I think climate change is an end of times, and it is an existential threat.
We're conducting a giant uncontrolled experiment on the only habitable planet where we live. It's not a question of whether or not the planet will survive, but whether or not people will.
The biblical floods Nostradamus prophesizes will end life as we know it. It's a fact only recently confirmed by the discovery of his son's mysterious paintings.
The lost book was discovered in 1994 in the National Library in Rome. It had 80 watercolor pictures that were rather strange. These were painted by Caesar at the behest of his father Nostradamus. This particular image shows a curiously flat castle, almost as though it's a fake building you could virtually knock down with a breath. It's sitting in the middle of a landscape which seems to be drowned. And above the castle are these sets of hands, people praying to God to save them from the flood. What Nostradamus is really saying here is, if you don't maintain your dams, disaster will follow.
This prediction is all the more horrifying because it can easily become a reality.
Before dams were built, rivers were described as being wild. And that's because there were seasonal flooding along a lot of rivers. The problem is these dams weren't built yesterday. They require maintenance.
The combination of an old dam in a place that is getting more and more rain and snow really does worry me.
Dams get old and dams can fail.
The United States is not great when it comes to keeping up old infrastructure around the country. If this were to happen, this would be an entirely avoidable human failure, first and foremost.
The most likely culprit for a dam collapsing lies in Montana on the Missouri River.
The Missouri River is actually the longest river in North America. There are 6 dams on this river to control its flow.
The Fort Peck Dam was actually built during the Great Depression. I mean, it was huge. Even today, it's one of the largest dams in the U.S.
The Fort Peck Dam can be a problem. When the dam released in 2011, 4,000 homes were destroyed, people died, and this is just the Fort Peck Dam releasing, purposely.
What truly makes the dam a catalyst for disaster is the growing instability of our weather.
Our overall climate has changed. There's larger influx of water happening in shorter time periods on the dam than it was originally designed to handle.
And worst of all, Nostradamus has predicted exactly when all this will unfold.
The time period that Nostradamus gives us before the cycle of the moon is completed. Now, there's a number of moon cycles he could be referring to. There is the lunar cycle every month, but that doesn't quite seem to fit here. There is a larger cycle for the moon, the Metonic moon cycle, which takes a cycle of 19 years. The next time that that completes is July of 2034.
July 2034. All of Middle America is drowning.
Walls of water from Montana nearly to the Gulf of Mexico, the entire center of the United States.
Flooding out vast amounts of valuable farmland, flooding out towns, just creating destruction on a scale never seen before.
This is just the beginning. Time is ticking toward Nostradamus's looming Armageddon. Water will soon be rising around the world, sinking cities, engulfing countries.
We are facing down a time when the world will be racked not by one flood, but by floods everywhere.
Is it too late to change the fate of the world? The prophet Nostradamus is gifted with a mystical ability to see the future. It's also a burden, since these premonitions feature little to rejoice about.
Visions of the future are incredibly disconcerting. They tend to be disastrous. You are inundated with all of the horror, all of the violence, all at once, but you don't necessarily know when or how or where.
How do you process it that you're having visions of the annihilation of mankind?
And how do you actually articulate what you just experienced in a way that's going to be effective? And so you have to decode this experience.
Nostradamus handled that information and knew that he needed to share it with the world, and share he did, because look at us now. We're centuries later, and we're still trying to decipher things because some of those prophecies are pretty damn frightening.
July 2034.
The Fort Peck Dam network has collapsed after a massive storm.
Within 36 hours, the flood cascading down the Missouri and Mississippi rivers is catastrophic.
So you can see I'm floating down some sort of creek. I've called 911.
The apocalypse Nostradamus predicted almost 500 years ago has begun.
Floods could affect every city along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers. We're talking Memphis. We're talking Natchez, Mississippi. We're talking New Orleans, Louisiana.
Entire buildings and homes destroyed. It's walls of water and mud, people, it's destroyed highways, vehicles, infrastructure. It's mind-boggling the amount of damage this would do. We're talking about deaths in the tens to hundreds of thousands potentially.
And each individual person clinging to the life they once knew, losing everything they once owned, and being pulled under, losing their breath, expiring beneath the waves and washed away.
The damage and the flooding could cover 3,000 square miles. Upwards of 15 million people could be made homeless by a flood like this.
So as you can see, I'm up in a tree because my car, which is no longer visible under the water, as it was sinking, I grabbed onto this tree and climbed up. It's normally dry ground around here.
These types of floods completely altered the landscape, not just wet and trying to recover, but gone, scoured, wiped off the surface of the planet. Floods like this not just destroy areas, they bankrupt nations and cause civilizations to collapse.
It would be something that would be felt from the US all the way to the other side of the world.
4 days after the Fort Peck Dam network bursts, a quarter of the United States will be underwater. Still, the danger recorded in Nostradamus's quatrains is far from over. Quatrain 588 warns of another enormous flood. This time, the source is more sinister.
Here I see something like a tidal wave or a tsunami that pushes the waves onto the land. There are places called Savona and Turin in New York State. So is this Nostradamus seeing some kind of seaborne attack on the shores of America?
Digging deeper, there are more clues to decode. Clues revealing the true cause of this attack.
One application of this verse could be to the relations of Russia and the West. Twice, the West invaded Russia, the first time under Napoleon, the second time under Hitler. Neither times was it successful. We can see these struggles between Russia and the West continuing to this day.
What if this interpretation is wrong? Nostradamus wrote his prophecies for a very important reason.
I look at his quatrains as like an early warning system, so we can use them to be aware of certain things that could be dangerous for us in the future.
If we don't decipher these quatrains correctly, his warnings are futile.
The prophecies of Nostradamus are certainly open to interpretation because they're cryptic. We don't know precisely what he meant when he wrote some of these things.
He may write in code, but Nostradamus wants us to interpret him as accurately as possible. In the 1980s, medium Dolores Cannon claims he reached out to her from beyond the grave.
Nostradamus saw the end of the world.
My mother, Dolores Cannon, is a hypnotherapist working with past life regression. And while working with a client, made contact with Nostradamus. He made it very clear that he was speaking to her from his time. He was not a spirit, and that he knew that she was also not a spirit. She was alive in her time. Nostradamus told her that he had a job for her, and that was to correct the translations properly.
He's been looking for a link to the future. because he could see that his prophecies were not being correctly interpreted, and the time is coming when they're going to come true.
Nostradamus specifically wants to clarify his flood prophecies.
Nostradamus lived in a time where he was very well aware of floods and the death and destruction that they caused.
The prophet points Dolores to one of his most cryptic messages.
Nostradamus is talking about a horrific-looking fish of human-like features. Nostradamus was telling Dolores about the submarines. The Russians were sending them out for subversive activities. And the horrible fish, that's the submarines.
A final line confirms that these submarines could be involved in a vicious attack on the U.S.
Could this mean that Russia would launch a naval attack on the U.S.?
If the Russians attack from the Atlantic, it would be yet another of Nostradamus' predictions to come true. The existence of a third Antichrist.
Nostradamus' prophecies are said to have predicted the rise of three Antichrists: Napoleon, Hitler, and some unknown figure to come.
The Antichrist is a human being who plays a role in the unfolding of this greater drama that brings about the end of the world. This is a figure coming from the East. This is a figure who could be coming from China or Russia.
Could the third Antichrist be the Russian administration or one of its senior officials?
He is someone who is not good or kind. He is a warmonger. He is someone who leads the world astray, bringing death in his wake.
Most disturbing of all, Nostradamus predicts the third Antichrist will strike at the dawn of the apocalypse.
I'm of the belief that these great floods happened around the same time as the third Antichrist's war and his reign.
An ocean attack is on the horizon in Nostradamus' predicted future. Unless something can be done to reverse fate, the day all of humanity drowns is coming closer to reality. Hundreds of years ago, legendary prophet Nostradamus foresees a seaborne attack on American soil by a great enemy.
The quatrain refers to many battles at sea. Is it possible that Russia will launch an attack on the West by sea?
Centuries later, this is now a reality thanks to a new, deadly nuclear weapon.
In 2018, March, Russian President Vladimir Putin introduced an autonomous underwater vehicle called Poseidon.
Poseidon is an unmanned submersible. Basically, think about it like an unmanned torpedo that is nuclear armed and very, very stealthy.
A very long-range nuclear torpedo, which has the potential to destroy cities from a great distance. A doomsday torpedo.
This weapon is essentially designed to deliver a very large nuclear weapon to a coastal target. This would detonate a large nuclear weapon underwater, creating a major tsunami effectively.
We're talking about combining a nuclear bomb with a tsunami? That is horrific.
July 2034, 4 days after the Fort Peck Dam flood destroys the center of the U.S.
Millions have died, with much of America lying underwater.
A devastated America will be susceptible to an attack from a foreign invader.
If the Poseidon system is stealthy enough, it could slide into the Hudson River off of New York and detonate.
Nobody would know it was there until it was too late.
Imagine a wall of water pouring over the Atlantic coast.
You're going to have a lot of water coming very quickly with a lot of force.
No city on the planet is ready for a radioactive tsunami, let alone Manhattan. It would just be havoc.
The radioactive wall of water hitting New York City is the catalyst for an even larger catastrophe.
When the explosion happens, it's not gonna just move liquid water across Manhattan, as devastating as that is. It's also going to vaporize water.
Basically radioactive steam. As that cools, it rains, and you get radioactive water fallout.
It's gonna leave behind a radioactive blanket covering the entire place.
The radioactive material that gets embedded in the buildings and in the streets and in the cars is something we wouldn't be able to come back from. We would absolutely have to flatten New York and rebuild it from scratch.
A New York swamped by a radioactive blanket of water will be just the tip of the Poseidon bomb's destructive reach.
If something over a few times larger of Hiroshima was parked in the Hudson right off the financial district in Manhattan and it detonated, this is a destruction hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers wide.
Simply put, if any nuclear weapon were to go off in the vicinity of the city, it would change the course of human history, it would make New York City unrecognizable, and it would change the world.
And that's just one device. Say there's 12. You put one off New York, you put one off Washington, D.C., you put one off of Florida, Houston, Seattle, and Los Angeles, and you have them all go off within an hour or two of each other, you ruin the United States. It's done. With these Poseidon torpedoes, the unmanned submersible death machines, you park one off a few select places and countries go bye-bye.
The third Antichrist has made his move. But Nostradamus' prophecy calls for the end of days. And in 48 hours, the global destruction he envisions will be complete. In Renaissance France, Michel de Nostradamus has horrifying visions of how the world ends. And recording these premonitions becomes his whole existence.
It's pretty clear that Nostradamus dedicated his entire life to both harnessing and understanding his visions.
I think Nostradamus was incredibly gifted in deciphering these images inside his head.
It was a twofold process. The nightly visions, staring through a glass at the flame, and all of the world's history. He would then turn toward what he viewed as a more scientific art. So he would verify his visions based on his knowledge of astrology, often referring to the signs of the zodiac and other celestial phenomena to give people a sense of the date that each of these prophecies were supposed to unfold around.
I believe we need to take Nostradamus seriously because he's been correct in the past. We would be remiss not to look at his forthcoming visions and consider the strong possibility that what he saw has the potential to happen if we don't take what he saw in his vision seriously. Here's what I think. We're screwed.
July 2034. The U.S. has been split in two by massive floods. The third Antichrist has decimated New York State. Nostradamus' prediction is coming true. But the climax of the great seer's prophecy, written in the preface to his book, spells disaster for the entire planet.
The world will be deluged by many floods to such heights that there will remain barely any land not covered by water. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's very obvious to me that Nostradamus is pointing us towards a future that will consist of a global flood.
The water would inundate the land, it would flood our major cities, it would make a lot of our land uninhabitable, displace millions of people. It really has the potential to be absolutely catastrophic.
Another line in the preface reveals more awful details in store.
The world shall be so greatly diminished through pestilence, war, famine, and for the most part, floods. As time goes on, the flood will get bigger and bigger and bigger. The sea level will rise. Its population so reduced that there will hardly be enough people around to work the fields. The lands that normally would be cultured in agriculture will not be worked.
If a world deluged by water isn't bad enough, the final line of the prophecy makes it clear. There will be no escaping a watery death.
It will last so long that everything will perish except the earth itself and the cultures which inhabit it. And Nostradamus tells us that this water is going to hang out a long time. So we're going to be living in water world.
In a few days' time, Earth will no longer be habitable by man.
We have the beginnings of a massive disease epidemic.
If the water is contaminated and there's not a lot of clean water around, people can get sick. They might ingest it.
Floods put you at increased risk for typhoid, cholera.
Cholera is a horrible disease that you don't want to get. It's serious and people are going to die.
Floods can be breeding grounds for mosquito-borne diseases like dengue, like malaria.
Malaria is often fatal and can affect a large group of the population. Once it's endemic and spread by mosquitoes, you're in trouble.
Another painting on the pages of the Lost Book suggests that we could be the creators of our own downfall.
Here we have an angel standing on water. It is announcing a disaster because it appears in the presence of a pope, saying, look what's going on around you, pay attention to it. This angel is hovering above the waters, announcing a flood disaster that is to come.
Nostradamus warns of a flood so big that it will dwarf those already engulfing the U.S. And the climate crisis that began it all is again responsible.
Climate change can very directly be connected to superstorms, incredible rain events. Landslides specifically are becoming more and more common because landslides are a rain event.
Our coastal regions are at much higher risk of landslides because the environment around those coasts has changed so dramatically. When that landslide happens, that causes a big shock to the ocean and results in a tsunami happening.
The biggest tsunami hazard actually comes from volcanic island chains.
If we have the combination of a volcanic explosion and a giant landslide, then this actually amps up the tsunami to be even bigger. So we get a mega tsunami.
As we move closer to the destruction of the entire world, will experts find the clues to keep us alive? Did Nostradamus in fact suggest we can alter the course of mankind's terrible fate? The year 2034, a week after the July floods began. Nostradamus's mega tsunami prophecy is hours away from hitting shores around the world.
Off the west coast of Africa are the Canary Islands. And the Canary Islands are volcanic islands. The geological record shows us that the Canaries is a place that has had big landslides in the past. And we know that the Canaries could have another big landslide in the future.
The Cumbre Vieja volcano is primed to erupt at any time. An explosion that will set in motion worldwide disaster.
A volcano that erupts would be enough to cause a massive landslide.
Half of that volcano could break off. As this massive portion hits the ocean, it creates a tsunami wave that's initially 3,000 feet tall.
And it would radiate in every direction away from the island.
Towards South America, towards Europe, towards North Africa.
And that wave speeds across the Atlantic Ocean, aiming towards the eastern side of North America and South America.
A tsunami travels across open ocean at about the same speed that a jet airliner flies, a couple hundred kilometers an hour.
We're gonna have an 8-hour head start before the tsunami reaches the American East Coast.
All the way from Miami up into Maine, any coast that's touching the Atlantic Ocean would now only have 8 hours to get out and to evacuate. And do we have the infrastructure for that? Do we have the capability for millions of people to get out of the cities in 8 hours?
Even though 8 hours seems like a lot of time, it's not. And where is there to go? You know, there aren't many places right near the coast where you could climb higher than 200 feet elevation, especially if everyone is trying to leave at the same time. If you have entire cities trying to evacuate on top of each other at the same time, it's not unlikely to talk about millions, tens of millions of people finding themselves with nowhere to run.
Everybody's gonna be headed west, and not everybody's gonna get far enough away.
Nostradamus spends his life interpreting the tragic ways the world ends. Why does someone from the 16th century care what happens to mankind hundreds of years in the future?
Nostradamus left us a roadmap that predicted the end of days.
Besides marveling us that he was so accurate as a prophet, he's also trying to warn us as a humanitarian.
Nostradamus' job, quite honestly, with the visions that he gave, may very well have been to save ourselves, to save mankind. Now, we have to take that information that he's provided from us and say, wait a minute, hold everything, full stop. We're not gonna have this play out the way that he saw it. We're gonna figure out how to make things different. If his visions come to pass, we're toast, kids.
Nostradamus predicts our end of days, but he also offers a way to avoid it. Yet if we do not heed his warnings, the global apocalypse is only hours away. The end of the world is almost upon us, just as it appeared in Nostradamus' waking nightmares. Is there a way to change our destiny?
Nostradamus felt that he was gifted with prophecy with the purpose of sharing it and warning people. Did he believe that these were written in stone, that his prophecies must come to pass? That raises the question of predestination and free will. Now, as a good French Catholic, he had to believe in the free will of humans. He even speaks to it. And so that suggests that he believed there were certain things that must happen, but that we had some agency in how they would play out.
What are we gonna do about it? Are we going to try to make things better and different? Nobody wants to see death, destruction, and the end of humanity as we know it. So the onus of responsibility falls on us to make those necessary changes. If not, we can only blame ourselves.
July 2034. It all begins with floods that split the U.S. in two. giving the third Antichrist the perfect opportunity to attack. Razing New York to the ground with a radioactive tsunami. And now, the entire planet is about to be annihilated by an enormous mega tsunami. A 50-foot wave is racing towards the east coast of the Americas, and it will end the world as we know it. As the monster wave speeds across the ocean, it decimates everywhere in its path. The shores of Europe, South America, and finally, the U.S.
It's gonna hit from Boston to Miami and everywhere in between.
But a tsunami isn't just one wave. It's a whole series of waves.
So that first one is going to hit, and that first one is going to be devastating. But just when you think that you've survived that one, then you have another wave that hits you.
Giant waves crashing onto beaches, destroying coastal cities.
The repeated barraging of wave after wave is making this situation completely unsurvivable.
This is truly the end of the world.
It's arrived. The Armageddon that Nostradamus saw 500 years ago. As the whole world goes down under massive floods and giant tsunamis, there's only one question. Are you prepared?